Hi guys, this is Janet with Living Room Talks. Today I have Nick Turner with me. Nick, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're working?
Yep. How you doing? I'm Nick Turner. I'm the associate director, head football athletic trainer at the University of Texas, San Antonio. I've been here 3 years, going on my fourth season with the football team.
So was it always a career goal to work in football?
Uh, Honestly, not initially. The plan. I was a baseball player growing up, so it was more about baseball. And then I got my first kind of taste of baseball, and I was like, you know what, I don't like it. But then when I touched football for the first time, it was very engaging, and you were active at practice and very involved. And I think that was the part that I loved the most. So I kind of switched gears and started looking at NFL internships, and got an opportunity with the Seattle Seahawks in 2009, and spent some time out there, had a great experience. And then I was at the University of Central Florida for my undergraduate degree, and spent my senior year working with football the entire season. So from there, it was pretty much football is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. I love it.
So I'm always curious when people fall into a specific sport that they end up working for a long period of time. How did you know it was the right setting or the right sport or the right workplace for you?
My first experience as a student was at a high school, and it wasn't what I wanted. For me, I wanted like the elite kind of top tier sports and athletics. And then I got put out of high school, and I was disappointed, but I actually had it was probably the best thing for me, and I had a really great experience with my high school athletic trainer, Heather Klein. Shout out to her. But she poured into me. I learned a ton. She allowed me to do a ton with the young student athletes there at Timber Creek High School. And I was very autonomous. So I learned a ton, and it allowed me to kind of sharpen my skills early on, just as a junior. So when I went to UCF for my spring semester and I was working women's basketball and softball and spring football, I felt a lot more confident. But I liked the high school. Could I see myself doing it? Yes. But at the same time, I wanted more. I felt like I was a guy that just liked the grind, the hustle. The amount of hours didn't bother me. I'd live in the athletic training room. I did my projects and homework. I'd be in there till 10, 11 o'clock at night because I'd get it done there rather than going home. So I just enjoyed that environment, that atmosphere. And so I noticed, okay, if I'm spending most of my time here in the athletic training room, especially with football, like if I had women's basketball, that might be 5 o'clock in the morning, but I'd be done by 9. Football would start practice by 9:30. So then I'd go to football, and cover football practice and help out wherever I could, and then come back in the afternoon and help with treatments or whatever. But I was just spending so much time and putting in so much energy into working football and being around that. So it was just like, all right, well, this is kind of my niche. I'm good at it. It starts to make sense a lot more when I'm here in this environment. So it's just kind of what I went after.
So you talk about the love of the grind and hustle. How do you not let that take over into your personal life?
Well, I have. And then so early on, I got to a point where I had literally burnt out so bad that I had these crazy headaches. I couldn't even stand at work. I was running outside to throw up or whatever. So that's when I kind of recognized, all right, I'm burning out. I'm not sick. I'm just my body's shutting down on me. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm not, taking care of me. I'm not getting that work-life balance. And I didn't understand what that meant early on. I was 24 when I took my first head football job at North Carolina A&T. All I wanted to do was do what the coaches needed me to do and take care of my players. And so whatever that meant by any means necessary, that's what I would do. But then at the end of the day, I wasn't taking care of me. And so when I felt that for the first time, I didn't really understand. The second time I got to that point, I was like, all right, I need to take a step back. And so then I started really realizing what I was doing, take a step back and make sure I'm getting out of the office. So going through that when I was 24 and 25, now as a leader and a supervisor of 3 or 4 that I oversee here at UTSA, my biggest deal is I emphasize work life. I emphasize getting out of the office, take care of yourself. So we get an opportunity to have a weekend off, take it. If we don't have to come in early, let's not, And so from my staff standpoint, in the spring we tried it, didn't work out, but we tried to, send 2 of us home for a half day and the other two stayed, and then we'd flip flop. You know what I mean? But we have really, I emphasize it, but we really try to take care of each other as much as possible. And then when we have a little time to let our hair down, whether it's a barbecue at my house or go have a drink or whatever, we make sure we do that.
How important is that social aspect or social interactions with your staff when you're in a position of leadership?
I personally think it's important just for the, it's easy to be kind of like, oh, I'm the boss and I'm up here and y'all go do your own thing and I'm not gonna interact. But to me, man, that's where your relationships are built. You know what I mean? You're spending what 10, 12, 14, 16-hour days, especially during camp, we're about to ramp up to next week, spending these long days together, but then you can't have the social aspect. Well, I'm not somebody that's I'm a professional and kind of uppity square. I kind of stay true to who I am. I'm very lively. I got high energy. I'm a big personality, and so that doesn't always come out at work as much as it might in the social setting. So letting people get to know me, just from a personal side, I think allows people to feel a little bit more comfortable, allows them, if they see you in that light, with boundaries, right? They respect you more. They work harder, a little harder for you. You know what I'm saying? And just respect you a little bit more. So that's kind of been my take on it. It's not for everybody. That's just how I've done it.
So you spoke of being burnt out at least twice in your career. How do you help mitigate that in the future? Like what do you do on a personal level to prevent from getting to that point?
uh Making sure I go home at a reasonable time, right? I try to be productive at work and try to get as much work as I can done on a daily basis so that when it's time to go home, I can go home. I don't bring home work, right? When I'm home, I'm home. During COVID, we were being forced to work from home and I was still sneaking into the office because I couldn't function at home. I wasn't getting it done. I couldn't process. I couldn't think. And when I'm home, I'm with my wife or my kids. That's where I want to be and that's where I want to stay. And so I try not to bring work home. I mean, that's the biggest thing, and try to decompress.
So going way back, this is a question I've been interested in asking people that's been in the profession for a while. When you first got into athletic training, what were your thoughts about where you would be at in 10 years?
10 years, I thought I'd be in the league, to be honest. I think in my class superlative, I was voted to be most likely to work in professional sports, so I thought for sure that's where I'd be. That was kind of my intention. My plan was to work big time football and be at that level. But my career didn't go that route. Doesn't mean it can't, just not there right now, but I also didn't think I'd be where I am right now.
So, couple of things. Why do you think there's such a stigma around athletic trainers talking about their mental health or going to their bosses and saying like, "Hey, I am drained, I am burnt out, I need a day"?
Why do I think it's a thing, or why do I think it's a stigma? I mean, I think it's a thing because there's so much that we take on, right? And not just our own mental health, but the student athletes, man. We're taking on a lot. They're coming to us with a lot more than what it was before. I've seen the generation shift from, I don't know, when was I in college? 2009. When I graduated, it was 2010. 2011 was grad school. 2012, I was an intern. 2013, I was head football. Like the shift of what those athletes were and the things they were coming to us about and what they were talking about. And now, like what we're hearing, it's different. And so we're taking on more. Obviously, COVID threw a freaking wrench in as far as what we had to take on. That was a whole different job than just being head football athletic trainer, taking care of your team, blah, 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 right? So all these different aspects are now coming along and people have their own issues. You got your own personal issues. You're trying to separate and balance your personal and your professional. It's a lot, and so when people become overwhelmed and they start taking on too much or consuming too much, it weighs on them and they don't know how to handle it. So, ideally for me, like I've been seeking a counselor for at least 3 years, and whether that's personal or professional, I just make sure I talk to somebody, but that way it keeps me clear minded and grounded and leveled so that I can continue to function at the level that I'm able to work at.
Tell me more about that. Not a lot of people talk about going to counseling on a regular basis. What initially took you to your first appointment and what does it offer you currently?
Yeah, my initially it was more of a personal deal. I had some family stuff going on that was affecting me and heavy on my heart, and I just kind of wanted to get it out, but I kind of wanted to find the root of where it may have been coming from. I grew up a little differently, but I can also relate to the student athletes that come in here and had either a fatherless household or whatever it may be. So trying to figure out and channel where some of my stressors come from, and I don't know, triggers even, was where it initially started. Where it is now is, just keeping me level and grounded. I try to go at least once a month just to, talk through where I'm at, what I'm going through, if there's anything, or just speak the positives and keep everything in perspective for myself, for my family, and even for me professionally, individually, but also for my staff here at UTSA.
So to clarify, you make it a point, like on your calendar, you're going to go to the counseling and everyone knows that you've blocked out this time for you. Any resistance from your staff or administration?
No, thankfully, admin don't know. Like thankfully, I have an opportunity here where I kind of move how I want to move. I can leave when I want to leave, and whether that's for family reasons, whether I want to take a vacation or whatever, I got a big enough staff and a staff that I trust that, hey, if I got an appointment, all right, no problem, right? And same for them, right? If they got something they got to handle, one of my staff members told me he was leaving yesterday because he had to move out of his apartment. Didn't see him most of the rest of the day. So that's fine. We all take care of each other, so there's no pushback, whether it's a mental health or counseling appointment, kids appointment, whatever. We don't really have any issues there.
So I recently stumbled upon a term that really resonated with me, and the term is work guilt.
Work guilt.
Work guilt, not being able to put the work down, not being able to leave work at work and not take it home with me, or the text messages and the emails. Why do you think athletic trainers have such deep-seated work guilt?
I think it's it's the level of care that's been, I guess, set as a standard, the expectation that they've set, with their coaches or with their players or whatever. And I'm guilty of it. If I'm on vacation and I get a text from my head coach, I'm gonna respond. You know what I mean? If I get a call from someone, I'm gonna pick up. But that's the level of expectation that I've set, right? And that's the standard. I don't take it personal when somebody calls me and I got to take a call for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Why it happens, I think, again, it's the standard that you kind of set. So then once you set it, then the demand is there, right? And it's hard to stray away from that, right? If you set a boundary from the jump, the boundary should remain as long as you stick to it. If you don't, they're gonna creep in and allow things to occur, right? I've gotten calls from parents at 3:00 in the morning, but I've also told them, if anything happens with your son from a surgery standpoint, call me. Don't go to the ER. Call me first. Let me know what's going on so I can help, and I've probably saved some people some money for an ER bill. You know what I mean? So my wife's looking at me like I'm crazy, like, who are you talking to at 3:00 in the morning? But that's the standard I set.
So switching gears a little bit, there's a lot of job openings and a lot of opportunities for athletic trainers to get into different fields and work settings and things like that. You, as a head athletic trainer for football, what do you look for in your potential candidates for assistant positions or GA-ships or internships?
Yeah, specifically, I'm looking for somebody that isn't exactly like me, but kind of cut from the same cloth as me, right? So I have a high expectation, a standard, and kind of demand that I've set for myself and for my program that I oversee and how I run it. So I'm looking, one, obviously I'm looking at your experience. That's number one, but where are you coming from? And then who do I know that can kind of stamp you or tell me, you are this way or you're not, right? Because that'll help you either get to the bottom of my pile or my top real quick. And so then it's just going through the interview process, right? And feeling them out. I like people that'll come on an interview and show that they're confident, but showing that they can still be a professional and carry themselves appropriately, answer questions appropriately, but then have a little swagger to them too. You know what I mean? I like to think that my room is a little different, right? We look a little different. We got a lot of diversity in this athletic training room on my staff, specifically, that you don't see across the nation. It doesn't look like this. I think the NFL is starting to kind of turn that way and bring in a lot more diversity and get that DEI going. But I don't know. I look for people that work their tail off and got a little swagger and a little something to them and get it.
So you talked about the diversity of your staff. Was that intentional in your hiring process?
100%. Like if I reach out to my network, I'm very specific, not that it's like I'm not looking at others, but hey man, do you know any African Americans? Do you know any Hispanics? Do you know any Asian, culture? I'm looking for a certain dynamic here. I want it to look different intentionally. Doesn't mean it has to, but that's where it's kind of gone for me. The opportunity when I left San Diego State to be a head for the first time at Old Dominion, I inherited a staff, and I wasn't mad about it. It is what it is. But I always said when I had the opportunity to build a staff and hire my own people, I was going to make it look differently, and we were going to do it differently. And fortunately, I've been able to do that here at UTSA.
How has that diversity helped with your athletic training room in terms of patient care, camaraderie, socially?
I think it creates an environment that's conducive to just being comfortable, while still upholding a standard. You know what I mean? So like the kids come in here and they see us, they see people that look like them, they see people that kind of, in a sense, can talk the talk and walk the walk and got a little something to them, right? All these kids, all these student athletes, they got something to them. They come from some kind of background that, if I can't relate to it, maybe my assistant Brian can. If he can't or I can't, then maybe my assistant Sam can. If I can't, Justine. So it all goes kind of hand in hand, but having an opportunity for these kids to just see different people and see different skin tones and different cultures in here, it makes it more warming. It makes it more personable. It makes it more relatable. And in my opinion, they end up getting a better experience.
So looking down the road, NATA is, I think, at a watershed moment right now, for better or worse, where we're at a moment where there's a lot of change happening and there's a lot of new diversity of thoughts or just opinions coming into the NATA. What do you think are some of the biggest issues that us members are going to run into or athletic trainers are going to run into?
You probably stumped me on this one. Because I'm not hip to all the changes that are going on. I kind of keep my head down and stay in the dirt out here. But if you give me some examples that I might be able to shed some light on.
What do you think about people not renewing their NATA memberships?
I think they're not going to receive the same type of benefits that they're getting. But I feel like, and I'm guilty of this too, right? I let a year lapse on one of mine as well. So, for me, do I really feel like I'm missing anything besides a discounted registration rate on NATA? I don't, but that's kind of the mindset. I feel like with people, what am I getting? I'm paying, what's the reward of paying X amount of dollars every single year? What am I getting? Career Center for Job Opportunities, looking at different policies and procedures, on the website and all that stuff. But for me, I keep it dumbed down and simple. Is there a reward over being a member? I was all into it when I was a student. I was proud to be an NATA member, especially fresh on. Now I don't know if I 100% see, I guess, the full purpose of even being a member. Obviously, I want to be a member of what our profession is, and what's out there. But, I can see people thinking that way for sure.
So playing devil's advocate, if you had a student or a subordinate saying that they don't want to renew their membership, would you try and convince them otherwise, or you have an understanding where they're coming from?
I'd probably just sit down and ask where they were coming from, why not or why. And everybody has their own opportunity to make the choice. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna shove it down your throat and be like, oh, you got to be a member, otherwise you're not a real athletic trainer. Like, unfortunately, the NATA doesn't make you a true athletic trainer, right? Especially if you're practicing appropriately and ethically and morally. Is it good to have? Yes. Um, is it the worst or the end of the world if you don't? No.
So last question, my favorite question always. Talk about an embarrassing moment that you've had as an athletic trainer, and what lesson did you learn from it?
Embarrassing moments. I laugh at myself all the time. Miami stumped here, man. Embarrassing moment. I mean, I guess I can go back to when I was a student. I'm working at camp, George O'Leary's football camp. And we're sitting there in our indoor, and I'm pushing one of those, water boys, or it's like a 10-gallon deal with the rack and stuff on it. Excuse me, I'm pushing one of those, and we went from one end zone to the other, and they blow the whistle, and coach is like, no, we're at the other end. And so I got all these parents like on the sideline, right? And I literally whipped I'm went from pushing it to dragging it behind me and running, and I flipped it. And so there's 10 gallons of water flips all over it, splashes on some of the parents. And somebody's dad comes up to me, he's like, look, like you spilled your water there. And I'm like, all right, dude. So I'm embarrassed, right? And I'm like trying to like scoop the water back in the cooler and try to make less of a mess. But I guess that would be an embarrassing moment. Another one would be almost breaking a spine board on the back of a gator because I clipped the edge of the wall that I was driving past or whatever. That was fun. So I've had a ton of stories, nothing like crazy or specific. You know what I mean? We cut up in the athletic training room all the time. I get called short, and all the short jokes happen in here from these big 300-pound, 6-foot dudes. I mean, whatever. Short jokes don't hurt me, so I don't care.
So last part of our living room talk is for you, your final statement.
I've this profession has given me so much. You know what I mean? And if I can save people from leaving the profession, and you got to be willing to work, you got to have the heart to be in it. We went through COVID. I said you got to be cut different to stay in it. You gotta be built different to stay in it. Your mindset got to be different. Your heart, you got to have heart. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ain't got it, you're not going to be in it. And I think that's why we've lost so many people. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing to not see a lot more minorities coming on. And I think we do, right? We have our different cultural groups, and we have the band, and it's great. But I want to see that continue to be a thing. I want to see more culture at the college level, at the pro level, and not just kind of sticking to the high school, you know what I mean? Or going to these different settings, the industrial settings. So I challenge people, I challenge kids, the up and coming future of the profession, to work your tail off, grind, be okay with the grind, be okay with the hustle, be okay with making mistakes, learn from them, get better, keep growing, and be somebody that can be reliable, so that a person like myself who's in that middle ground, right? I'm seasoned, but I don't consider myself a vet yet, you know, where I get up to that point. I want to be able to look at these young kids and be like, yep, he's next. Yep, he's next. She's next. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I look for when I'm hiring people. That's what I want. Because ultimately, I think if you get with the right leader and the right person and the right program, and you have a environment, in my opinion, like the one we have here, that cultivates, grooms, and gets people ready to go, I think it's exciting to see those kids blossom and go off and really do great things. And that's what I challenge a lot of these young kids to do. So I'm hard on people that come through my athletic training room with the intention of go get better, go kill it, go grind, go learn it, and then come get this position someday, you know? That's what I'm passionate about. Sorry.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Nick, thank you so much for doing this, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk.